Reagan, and today I'm here to bring you my spring reading and review video. If you're not aware, my reading and review videos kind of looks back at my past season's reading. I go over each and every book, I quickly give you the star rating, and then I give you the top 5 books I read for that month. As always, I'm going to be very brief when I go over each book, but I will leave down below each individual wrap up if you want more specific thoughts. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So of course, starting with the month of March, the first book I read was The Head Mistress of Rosemare by Sarah E. Ladd, and I gave this book like a 2 out of 5 stars. Next up is The Blood Mirror by Brent Weeks, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Valiant by Leslie Livingston, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Everything by Nicola Yoon, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And lastly, for the month of March, I read Wind Witch by Susan Dennard, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now moving on to the month of April, I read the first book to the Night Angel trilogy by Brent Weeks, the first one being The Way of Shadows, which I gave like 2.5, 3 stars out of 5 stars. Next up, I read The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot, which I gave a 4.25 out of 5 stars. This is my first nonfiction in a while, and it was so good. Next up, I read Royce Rolls by Margaret Stohl, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars to. And I read Shadowcaster by Cinda Williams Chima, which I gave a 4.25 out of 5 stars to as well. And lastly, I read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. Now moving to the month of May, the first book I read was The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare, which I gave a 4.25 out of 5 stars to. Then I read Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars to. Next up, I read The Trials of Apollo, Book 2, The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars to. And lastly, I read A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, which I gave like a 4.5, 5 stars on a good day to. Oh man. Now moving on to the top 5 books I read this season. As always, these books are in no particular order as I just love them all, so it's actually hard to really make this list, not gonna lie. The first one I'm just going to quickly mention because I feel like I've mentioned this series way too many times on my channel. I'm pretty sure you guys are probably sick of it, and that is The Blood Mirror by Brent Weeks, the 4th book to the Lightbringer series, one of my all-time favorite series. You guys know this. It's a great high fantasy multi-perspective series centered around a magic system on light. Not gonna go into it much more. This was actually my least favorite book in the series, but I still love the series, so as you can imagine, this was still amazing, hence why it's on this list. Next up, I have Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. This is just such a great YA fantasy series. Susan Dennard not only crafts very interesting magical worlds, again, we follow witches here that all have different types of power, but beyond that, we also have such great characters, an amazing female friendship that's like goals, life goals, and then on top of that, slow burning romance and politics and just all types of things to just suck you in and just make you want to keep reading. I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was even better than the first one, and I just feel like Susan's writing is just getting better and better, and I'm so happy I have the ability to read her fantasy books because they're great. They're just so great. Next, I have Shadowcaster by Cinda Williams Chima. I feel like this should also not be a surprise, as many of you guys know how much I love Cinda Williams Chima's writing. I've read all of her books. She's probably one of my favorite authors of all time, if not the favorite. Ooh, that's a hard statement to make. But anyway, this is the 2nd book to her new fantasy series. Again, not my favorite book she's ever written, but she really can't go wrong when it comes to writing multi-perspective YA fantasy. I love how her characters come together and her plots unfold. I'm just completely sucked into her world always, and I just feel like she has such a skill for writing different characters that can come together in such interesting ways. I just really have a lot of respect for her world and her writing, and I really loved this series so far. I hate the cover change, but that's a story for another day, but I loved this. Next up is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is so exciting because this is a new first book. All the other books I believe I talked about were 2nd, 3rd, 7th books in a series. This is the first book to a new YA fantasy series by Laini Taylor. I thought it was whimsical, magical, and delicious. This is a dual perspective YA series following one of our main characters, Laszlo, who his whole life has been called strange. He kind of works in a library and he's obsessed with this lost city of Weep. The city itself has kind of disappeared, and so has its name, so it's been renamed weep. However, one day a convoy from the city comes and is recruiting like the best architects, the best minds, and he joins this convoy to help kind of solve the problem of the city. Oh, Laini Taylor for one, I love her writing, and I also really respect how Laini Taylor, in my opinion, is able to articulate the complexities of war, vengeance, and hatred, and especially amongst multi-generations of people. I just think her stories are really, really great. I loved this, and I can't wait for the next one. Completely hooked me. One of my favorite books I've read this year, for sure. And the last book I'm going to mention is A Court of Wings and Rune by Sarah J Maas. This is an incredibly popular series. Like many people, I'm trash for it. I read this, I completely ate it up. I love Nesta, and I don't really have much more to say about this. Besides, question mark, is it over? Does anyone know? This is a new adult fantasy series. You guys should know by now I like fantasy a lot. It does have a lot of explicit sex scenes, so if that's something that is uncomfortable or you're younger, I would keep that in mind. But this is a really great fae series that has a lot of drama, a lot of angst, a lot of great combat. I'll give Sarah J Maas that, and I am addicted to it, and I really, really enjoyed reading it. Alrighty guys, those are the top 5 books I read this spring. Let me know down below some books you've read recently that you've loved, as I would love to know, and I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!